What's up, Internet World? We're the News 19 Nerds. I'm Leroy.
I am he who remains.
No, you are not. You are a blokey.
No, I can be everything.
No, you are a blokey because you started that mess.
I did, but I want to be he who remains.
No, you are a blokey because that's what you came up with, and you go own that.
All right.
Because now they're in the comments talking about this, and every time I see it, I gotta stamp it down like a bug that I saw.
Thank you, chat, for doing that. Thank you, commenters. I love it. Let's keep that going.
I hate you.
Episode 6 of Loki.
Woo!
Let's do some quick non-spoilers so we can get into spoilers. Non-spoilers. Yep. I think they stuck the landing on this show.
That's what I was gonna say.
I think I enjoyed the Winter Soldier. Nope. What is the actual name of the show? I hate you. What was the actual name
Falcon
of the show?
and Winter Soldier.
The Falcon
we call
and
it Winter
Falcon. Yes. I definitely enjoyed that show and where it ended and what it represented. Now that we have a Black Captain America, that was cool. That show was kind of up and down. WandaVision was up and down. Loki, for me, it was kind of, whatever, but they stuck the landing for me. I'm excited for what this means for the rest of the MCU. Shout out to everybody involved in terms of acting, where we're going next. And yeah, this is like a 4 out of 5 sacred timelines for me for episode 6.
I'm going to give this a 5.5.
Okay.
Well, no. Out of 5? 4.5, no, 4.75. I'm going to go, it's not perfect. Mm-hmm. It's not a total 5. It's a 4.75 Hunter B-15s.
Okay.
Because there was things that I was a little, but mostly they did fan service very well. They took a character on a journey. We saw the arc. They introduced new characters that you actually cared about. They gave us a brand new villain. 2 villains, actually, in my opinion. Well, you know what? They gave us a multiverse of villains. I'll say that.
Okay.
Yeah. And you cared about everybody involved. And I agree with you. The other 2 shows were a little uneven. I think part of that had to do with COVID and the fact that their shooting schedules and then maybe they weren't able to tell the story that they wanted to tell. I think this being 6 episodes might help as well. It was a little tighter, a little compact, less things to throw up in the air. When I watched that last episode at 3:30 in the morning, I was glued to my chair.
Sure.
For that amount of time, to where I was like, I was glued to this episode to me was as good as I felt when Carl Lumbly did his speech.
Okay.
Like that speech was this entire episode.
Okay.
So I'm on board.
All right.
Shout out to Tom Hiddleston. Hiddleston.
Yes.
For carrying this entire show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this made me love Owen Wilson even more.
Okay.
And I think he's the best Wilson out of the 2 Wilson brothers.
I have no fight in that, so I don't care for sure. Whatever. That's fine. I mean, I like Luke Wilson, but I don't care either way.
I like him, but I just think Owen's the more talented brother.
Okay. So now we're into spoilers.
Let's get the spoilers.
This episode was so much fan service. As soon as it starts and you hear snippets from other MCU stuff, I was like, oh, this is something different. I was like, we're hearing something from Black Panther, we're hearing something from Guardians, we're hearing something from Ant-Man, we're hearing all these different little lines. It's like, oh, they're setting the seeds for what this multiverse can be, just to remind you that everything's interconnected. They spend maybe 4 or 5 minutes with Loki and Sylvie, and then we get this dude, who they don't call King the Conqueror.
Who's this dude?
He Who Remains.
Say his name!
Oh, Jonathan Majors.
There you go. Put some respect on that name. That brother from Lovecraft Country. That brother who gave you everything. Atticus.
So the internet world is so quick to pick up on who's in what show and who's in what project and everything. And Marvel, I mean, it's not just Marvel, it's any movie, and Variety and Hollywood Reporter. I mean, it's their job to get you those scoops. And they had been talking about for a while that Jonathan Majors was supposed to be King the Conqueror.
Supposed to be. He was cast as King the Conqueror in Quantum.
And Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yep.
So we were like, okay, we're going to see King the Conqueror then. Maybe he's going to be the season or phase 4 and 5 version of Thanos. He's going to be, he could be the big bad. We don't know.
We didn't know. We just know
he's a big name.
King is a big deal in the MCU. And Jonathan Majors is coming off Lovecraft Country. A lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this man can act.
Right.
And
what we didn't know was that he was going to be, or at least I don't think we knew he was going to be in Loki.
No one knew.
The fact that we saw him, as soon as I saw him sitting down and the doors open. I was like, oh, he's in the show. And I was like, okay, how much are we going to get with him? I didn't think he was going to essentially... I'm pretty sure he had most of the speaking lines in this episode. Mm-hmm. Man, he deserved every minute of it. The character that he played, this version of whatever he is, I don't know if he is if this version was King the Conqueror or whatever. He's one of the variants of him. He just stole the scene every time he was on the air. And it was kind of his vehicle this episode. And both Tom Hiddleston and, was it Sophie DiMartino? Yeah. They just let him talk, and it was great.
So I will disagree with a little bit. People suspected. Okay. So one of the things after episode 5 we talked about, if you're going to go back and watch our video, we talked about who is this person who's at the end of the...
Who's pulling all the strings.
We know the TVA ended up being some Chuck E. Cheese, whatever. And we know that it was all a charade. It was all a charade. I put on our community tab who was going to be the person pulling the strings. Who was going to be the man behind the curtain, so to speak.
Some people thought it was going to be another Loki.
So I put up there, is it a Loki variant? Mm-hmm. Is it Loki himself? In other words, was this all a big con? Was it Owen Wilson? Was it, I asked a bunch of different questions, and one of them was it Kang? Mm-hmm. And so when Jonathan Majors showed up, for those people who knew he was cast as Kang, they were like, but then he wasn't Kang the Conqueror.
Right.
He's a variant of the same character, which made it even more sweet, delicious, because we now know Jonathan Majors is going to be able to play this character
different versions of him
so many different ways.
Right.
So he can be, so it's one of those things where you can play a character straight, you can play him loose, you can play him menacing, you can play him meek. There's so many different ways that you can play this character, to the point where you're like, what just effing happened?
A good way, or I'm not going to say it's a one-to-one comparison, but a way I like to think of it is the way Tatiana Maslany did all of her characters for Orphan Black.
That's a good... Ooh.
Because there were so different versions of a clone or whatever. So I'm hoping that that's what Jonathan Majors is going to be able to do. We're going to have a cranky Kang, a nice Kang, a meat Kang, whatever. I like that.
It's funny you mention that, because that's exactly the character in the comics. There's a multitude of different Kangs.
Okay.
In other words, there's this character across the multiverse, which now... This is the one thing I love about these shows and that the MCU does, is this building of a world. This idea of taking a concept that was probably foreign to most people up until 10 years ago. The idea that this universe exists among other universes.
Sure.
That there's a version of you in another world that might have went to that other school that you didn't go to, who might have turned left and when you turned right. That concept now is explained to my family members who don't watch any of this stuff. Mm-hmm. The idea that this idea that is a theory in science, not just science fiction, that the idea that there are multiple worlds that exist has now become pop culture.
Sure.
And they did a good job of pulling that off. And now you've got people who are going to have Kang shirts on, and it's going to be Jonathan Majors.
I don't know who the costume designer is for the show, but shout out. She did a great job. He or she did a great job overall with the show. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Majors' outfit of the green and the purple, kind of resembling the King the Conqueror outfit a little bit, was great.
I was very impressed with everyone, and I am not... Ravonna Renslayer has been... She is...
You have hated from the show Gugu.
I still hate her. And now...
She didn't do nothing to you.
Yes, she did.
Gugu, come on the show and talk to us.
No, don't, because I don't want you to try to, take me out and prune me like you tried to do that little 6-year-old girl who ain't did nothing to you.
She was doing a job.
You know who else said we're just doing a job?
Don't do that.
I'm just saying.
We're not doing that.
I'm just saying, don't just say it's just a job, because it ain't just a job. Owen Wilson told you it wasn't just a job. Mobius said we were friends. We were cosmic friends, sir.
She had a job to do.
Nah, man.
She had to keep the trains running.
Nah, man. She ain't somebody I want to hang out in the break room.
Fair enough.
Nope.
Okay.
But I will say this. Her character, loved to hate her. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad I did, because now we get to see who she really is. And now the question is, because in the comics, Ravonna is Kang's boo.
Right. Yeah, I read that.
So there is this idea of these two is she going to seek out a version or variant of Kang or the Kang? Because we don't know which one is the one. Because Jonathan Majors, aka He Who Remains, said there are variants of me, and he said, and he was very cryptic about which ones they were. So he knows they exist or they will exist. So the question is, which ones is the one she is going to end up with?
Right.
And so that's why I was like, ooh, I hate you because I know who you are, but I don't know what your motivation is. And now that I do, oh,
yeah,
bravo.
I'm excited. So the only thing I didn't like in this episode, I kind of felt like the TVA stuff was kind of boring. And maybe because I was having so much fun just watching Jonathan Majors just be fun in the scene. So when they cut back to Gugu and Mbatha-Raw and Owen Wilson, it slowed things down. And I get it, you kind of for a pacing thing, I kind of just like...
I loved it.
The whole interaction of, I'm going to get you, I'm not. I was like, that was bad choreography.
See,
I didn't like that.
I kind of liked it because I felt like Mobius has always been... I felt like he was kind of like, he was a cog. Excuse me, he was just a man in the machine doing his best to do the job, and he thought Ravonna was his friend. And he realized that the world was bigger than what he thought it was.
Yeah.
And she had been lying to him his entire time. And I felt that betrayal for him.
Was she lying the entire time? Because I took it to mean she didn't really know what was happening until the head came off.
She didn't know.
But she was just like, this is all I know what to do, so we got to keep going.
This is the thing that I felt about her.
Yeah.
She was doing a job, but you ever had a job that you know there was more stuff going on? You've been a manager before, and then you know there's more stuff going on, but you're telling people to do stuff that you know ain't exactly on the up and up because you know there's secret information going on behind you, and people are asking you for information and you can't tell them stuff that would actually give them more clarity, but because you're a manager, you can't give them that.
I can neither confirm nor deny that.
That's what she was doing.
Okay.
And that's where the betrayal came from, because Owen Wilson was like, Mobius was like, we were friends. We were cosmic friends. We've known each other for eons. And you do this to me? E2 Brute?
Sure.
That scene, I loved it. Because now Mobius is giving everyone the information that we're all variants and we've all been pruned or taken from our homes and put in this situation. They've robbed us of our value, our soul. And that I thought was a very well done scene, because we cut back to Hunter B-15, who talks to Hunter D-90, who is this stormtrooper of and then she's like, wait, I'm trying to show you. And he was like, Judge?
Yeah.
And she was,
why are you in my school, bro?
And you're like, oh, that whole thing was, and again, I've said in other videos, I kind of wanted more from the TVA as far as like how things worked and all other stuff. I still want that. So hopefully in Loki,
who's to say that they won't do something more with the TVA? In the first MCU show to announce a season 2 so far, which is cool. How do you feel about not getting a post-credit scene, but just getting a season 2 thing? I was a little disappointed. Just because I want to see something, but I'm happy for season 2.
What I would have liked to have seen, maybe, which I thought would have been interesting, and this is the thing that I think Marvel can start doing, which it doesn't. Marvel is very good at only giving you just enough to get by, and giving you these little scenes like Shawarma at the end of the Avengers movie, Captain America at the end. So pulls the chair out. I would have been cool with like a Miss Minutes, like
that'd have been fun.
Like now here's the multiverse. Like
shout out to Miss Minutes and Tara Strong, who for throughout like episodes 1 through 5 was kind of plucky and chipper, and there was she played it a little bit differently, and Miss Minutes was a little terrifying.
A lot of people,
and it was cool.
A lot of people, if you look at the memes, if you go online, a lot of people are like, "This was the moment where Loki turned into a horror movie."
I was like, "Oh, Miss Minutes, you're not the way you're talking is not nice anymore."
Because again, Miss Minutes is in on the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because remember, Miss Minutes told Ravonna,
"This is what you need."
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I got you. Not what you want. What you
and
need.
See,
yeah.
And that's why I think this stuck the landing, because they satisfied us with the ending by giving us a conclusion, but also setting up what's coming next.
Sure.
And that sense of dread. And I think that, and the thing that think that people attached themselves or really embraced was that moment where Loki tells Sylvie, I can't be trusted and you can't trust.
Yeah.
And you realize that that's not the same character that we started with.
No.
It's not the character who died. This is a totally different version of Loki.
Yeah.
A variant, so to speak.
Yeah.
And his dread and his loss is our loss.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, the idea of when he went back to the TVA. And I didn't even catch this at first. I didn't think about it, and I did once. And I talked to Adam. And Adam said, we don't even know what timeline he's in.
Mm-hmm.
Because Owen Wilson said, you're an analyst. And so that's his friend. We don't know how the timeline being rewritten changed the sacred timeline, or if Sylvie even put him in the sacred timeline. We don't know where she dropped him. We just know she has the ultimate time pad, and she dropped him where she dropped him.
Right.
And I think that's a very interesting concept, that the multiverse is real, and now anything can happen. And I think if Marvel is doing what I think they're doing, Marvel is setting up the multiverse war. And I think that is the most audacious thing we have seen yet. Because I thought it was going to be hard to top Infinity War and Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the sheer, like, you built up to this point. Now we see the threads from WandaVision. We have the Darkhold. We're going to get the multiverse of madness. And a lot of people are like, oh, we're going to get the multiverse there. No, you got the multiverse in Loki.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that I loved about Loki that I'm upset about with, because you showed me you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't do it for Black Widow.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the thing that I got upset with when it comes to Black Widow. Loki showed me that you can set up something and hand it off while still giving homage or a tribute to this character.
Sure.
Now, maybe they should have done Black Widow as a show. Maybe the commitments weren't there. I don't know. But you showed me you could do it for a character.
Yeah. Talking about Loki and Black Widow for a second, and I should have said this in Black Widow, it was great to see Black Widow in a theater and realize, like, the scale of a Marvel movie. Like, maybe they didn't do a great service, but it still felt like a movie event. And I say that compared to Loki. Loki's great, but Loki definitely feels like a TV show.
I differ. That episode felt like a movie.
Okay.
Because the stakes were there. That fight between Loki and Sylvie. When Loki was like, let's take a minute. Sylvie was like, nah, bro, this is what I'm about.
Right.
I'm about killing. Do you not understand what?
When you met me, this is what I've been talking about the entire time. I haven't changed.
I was gonna kill you.
Yeah.
So that conversation, that dance, where we see them fight and we know they care for each other. We know that there's a real connection, to the point where Owen Wilson, Mobius, was like, what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how we found you. We know it's there. And to see her betray him, mm-hmm. when he's always the one who betrays.
Sure.
And he was genuine. And he did, because remember, he threw down his weapon. He came back and threw down his weapon to save Kang. Or He Who Remains.
Right.
And he knew what was going to happen. He didn't run. And she even said it. You're not going to beg for your life? She believes, like, nope. See you soon.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is what changed when you're like, oh, Star-Lord all over again. It was Star-Lord all over again.
Yeah.
And
like, you know, we could have kept the secret timeline, but Sylvie, to Sylvie's credit, she didn't change. She's like, nah,
hey, thank you, Sylvie.
Die.
Thank you, Sylvie. I appreciate it.
She stuck to her guns.
You gave me exactly what we all wanted.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, to me, Loki is the one that stuck the landing, because they did everything that they set out to do. Mm-hmm. The other ones did not do. And I think that's something. And we hadn't talked about this franchise in a while. Well, because nothing's really happened. The Mandalorian, mm-hmm. season 2, stuck the landing where the movies didn't. because the movies had so much heavy lifting to do, whereas The Mandalorian was about one story, and they told it well, and they built up to this point, and that's the credit, the advantage that television has that movies cannot do sometimes, and sometimes maybe characters are not given the benefit of having a TV show when that character would be well served by a TV show.
Right.
The end of The Mandalorian, even though we know that there's so much, like, where did Grogu go? What happens to Giancarlo Esposito's character? What happens with Bo-Katan? What happens to Jardin? What happens to everybody? But we still got a conclusion with a cameo from someone we never even thought was coming.
Sure.
Loki did the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's my problem with Black Widow, as far as, like, you did not give that character the respect, in my opinion, that it deserved, whereas Loki got so much. We saw this character grow and be let down, fall in love, and realize his mistakes.
Sure.
And bravo, Marvel. Bravo, Kevin Feige. You did it in this one.
Okay. That's about it. You got any other parting comments? I mean, not really. You got to go.
Yeah, I will say this. This is one of those shows where, like, there were so many Easter eggs and we could spend all the time. However, what I will tell you is, if you enjoyed this show, and I haven't done a good job of this, and I need to, go pick up the comics. Go back and read. If you want to know more about all of these characters, go to your local comic shop. Go sit down with someone who reads the comics and go find out who Loki is, who Ravonna is, why they're so important, who Mobius is, what the TVA really is, and what books they are in. Because the thing is, the TVA is in a lot of Marvel stuff. Come Avengers, come Fantastic Four. So there's this is a broad jumping off point for everything, and we owe it to the people who created these characters, from Stan Lee to Steve Ditko. Those people back in the day, go back and read the comics and appreciate that the comics were there, and that's the reason why we have all of this.
There we go.
Off my soapbox.
There we go. Very well said. Find us here on YouTube. You can leave your comments below about what you thought of episode 6 of Loki, as well as the season overall and all of MCU. Also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, maybe WOTX.com. We don't know. Possibly.
We don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Hit the bell to know when we put up new videos. Like, comment, subscribe. We out.
Peace.